Hello, BookTube. I'm back with another shelf tour. This is shelf tour 23, I think it is. But it's the Folio Society books, shelf 2. So let's get to it. There's quite a few on this shelf because they're smaller books. Here's one here, the box. It is My Early Times, Charles Dickens. It's quarter cloth, it's paper, and nicely, well, there's an embossed there along the edge, and then the decoration border. Nice end papers. I assume they're the same on the back. No, it's different. They're different. Usually they keep the same, but they're nice end papers. This is compiled and edited by Peter Rowland, 1988, by the Folio Society. And there's the man himself. It is a collection of, just reminiscences of childhood, boyhood, manhood, and so forth. Came with two other ones, because I wasn't aware of this one in Folio Society publication. I'll get to those in a second. This is the Borough High Street Dickens Way Home to his lodgings in Lant Street. So it doesn't say who the engraving is by, but it's quite nice. It's a double page spread. And there's other illustrations throughout, but yeah, it's quite nice. And these were the two, well, this is one of the two that I wanted and ordered, but then I saw these all together, cheaper than I could get them separately, these two separately. And yeah, just plain end papers this time. This is Essay selected and introduced by Rosalind Valance, engravings by George Cruikshank, Folio Society, 1966. Good year. Etchings by Cruikshank, first published in the Gentleman's Pocket magazine in 1827 and 1829. And there's a Hackney Coachman for the frontispiece, and it's I like Cruikshank's illustrations. There's a lot of really good illustrators that were around at that time. Not a lot in here, there's a few. Stage Coachman, I like those. Because I'm interested in stages and coaches and whatnot. The Baker. Let's see what's in here. Gone Astray, The Streets in the Morning, Greenwich Fair, Early Coaches, Private Theatres, Parliamentary Sketch, Gin Shops, and so forth. See how long they are. There might be one of those that might be worth reading for the essays. I'll go through them. I got one picked out for today, I think. And then we'll move on from there. And this is the other one that sort of came with this. It's Dickens in Europe. On both of them, there's a little fading of the spine. But as I say, the price was very, very reasonable. So this is selected and introduced by Rosalind Valance again. And Folio Society, 1975, and there's a caricature of Dickens by Andre Gill, which I think is quite funny. I really like that one. Let's see here. It's like Crossing the Channels, First Visit to Italy, Genoa, Adventures of the Chimes, Towards Rome, Naples, Paris, and Provençal, France, Switzerland, Italy, return via Staplehurst at home in the Swiss chalet. And there are various illustrations throughout again. This box is a bit rough, but that wouldn't just take a bit of glue to fix it. Yes, here's... It's one of my I really love the poem by A. Houseman, The Shropshire Lad. And it's a little one, but it's nicely done. With engravings by Agnes Miller Parker. So it's a Shropshire Lad by A. Houseman, 1996, by the looks of it. 1994. Originally, the engravings are from 1940, published by Kegan Paul originally in 1896, and the text follows that of the authorized edition of 1924. And look like the same, yeah, wood engravings. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. They look like wood engravings. But it's a poem I really, really like. I've read it many times, and I've got it in a number. Every time I see a copy of it, I pick it up because I can't help myself. Here's a little one. It's a bit dusty, dirty on there. It's a it's Edgar Allan Poe, narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, comprising the details of a mutiny and atrocious butchery on board the American brig Krampus, on her way to the South Seas in the month of June 1827. It's a little one. It's quite nice. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read it at all. It's introduced by Marilyn Robinson, illustrated by David Lupton, 2015. The illustrations do seem to be pretty good in this. As I was mentioning before, Poe is one of the authors that I'm sort of not rushing to finish because I want every so often the pleasure of reading something brand new by him. I was doing that with the Sherlock Holmes stories up until about almost 15 years ago, and I was bored. The library actually had the complete short stories and the complete novels in 2 volumes, so I got them out and sadly read them all in less than a week. So I've got no new Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes to read again. Now here's again, well, the boxes. Rides Round Britain by John Byng. And this is a nice, I do like this style, the marbling and the cloth. There's a bit of a series of these, which I do want to pick up a few others of. This is Viscount Torrington. It's edited. It's a sort of abridgment of his writings, his travel writings. Edited by Donald Adamson, and engravings by Anne Hayward, 1996. This third printing, 1998. And every printing they do, they change the buckram on the back for some reason. Not sure why, but I guess, well, it's just easier to denote the different printing. So when I did see one time at a bookshop a whole bunch of these, they were the same. Oh, I didn't know all these. And then all of a sudden I started looking at the titles. Ah, bugger. It's the same ones, over and over. Here's another one, The Diary of a Country Parson, by James Woodford. It's the same configuration, the marble boards. Selected by David Hughes, engravings by Ian Stevens, 1992. Yeah, this is the 1992 edition, and engravings, quite nice. These are all things that I enjoy, but I do want to get the full. Like, I want to get the full Country Parson by Reverend James Woodford. at some point, because I do enjoy reading them. But, you know, these were very cheap, and I do like a folio. This is the third one I have, and I got a newer version of this I picked up, I think, for £1. Mary Russell Mitford's Our Village. And this is an abridgment, I think, as well. Maybe not. Illustrated by Joan Hassel and introduced by Ronald Blythe. It's a bit odd because it doesn't have the normal title page. Like, there's the sort of half title, and the title page is sort of a facsimile of the original, but with Folio Society down at the bottom, or may have been created for this, I'm not sure. It's a second printing, 1998, so originally in 1997, but it looks at least the introduction by Ronald Blythe was. And the illustrations are rather small, but quite nice. Maybe she did the, I suspect that the title page is done by the same, because it looks similar style. Now we're going back to an older one again. The older ones usually have a little, the slipcases are a little rough, and sometimes the spine, like this one's a bit faded. But I remember only paying like £1 for this one. It's a selection for the writings of William Cobbett, giving a view of Cobbett, the man Cobbett, and his contemporaries. Cobbett, in the parliamentary reformer, Cobbett, the traditionalist, Cobbett, and contemporary social problems, Cobbett, and the changing face of England, taken from Peter Porcupine, Rural Rides, and Political Register, etc., etc., etc. So it's just a compilation. I do have the Rural Rides we saw yesterday, and I do like his... So this is Compliments Folio Society. A little slip. I didn't notice that before. I don't think I've actually looked at this too closely because I just liked it, and I think it just got stuck on a shelf. Occasionally that happens, and I don't get a close look at them. It's from a Mr. Man Coker, Birmingham, with Compliments Folio Society, 6 Stratford Place, London, W1, 1968. Printing, and there's various illustrations, and it's just a collection of his writings. But as I say, it's just faded on the back, but £4. That's the thing. A lot of the old, I see a lot of the old, folios really cheap. And I try to pick them up when I can. I didn't for quite a while, and I missed a lot. But I do pick them up now if I see them for £1 or £2, unless they're really, really ratty. Here's The Vampire and Other Macabre Tales. It's one of the newer pictorial cloth. Introduced by Lucasta Miller and illustrated by Anne Yvonne Gilbert, 2012. Illustrations. And there's the frontispiece. Somewhat looking, I think, a bit like Johnny Depp in some ways, in the eyes and the mouth. So it's got The Vampire by John Polidori, who was at Villa Delati, or I always forget the pronunciation. It's got the Cremona violin, E.T.A. Hoffman. The Lady with the Velvet Collar, Washington Irving. Lexip Castle, Charles Maturin. We saw his other one here yesterday. The Tapestried Chamber of the Lady and Sacker, Walter Scott. Manos and Damos by Edward Buller Lytton. The Dream by Mary Shelley. The Red Man by Catherine Gore. The Bride of Lindorf, Letitia E. Landon. Dr. Heidegger's Experiments, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Passage in the Secret History of an Irish Countess by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu, and Ligeia by Edgar Allan Poe. Other illustrations are that. I like the old style, like those one like the rural ride, rural rides, and so forth. The smaller ones that I was showing, but I also like the new ones. I do like the pictorial covers. I don't know how their longevity will be, how long they'll last, but only time will tell. Here's one. It was again like there's a series of these. This is the best after dinner stories. And again, it's a pictorial one. It's a newer one, or newish. It's selected and introduced by Tim Heald with illustrations by Phil Cox. It's 2003. I think there's 3 or 4 that are sort of the series. I wouldn't mind getting them because they're a nice selection to sit down and read. You got Geoffrey Chaucer, Our Host, William Shakespeare, Henry versus, and it goes through the time. Samuel Johnson in brief. P.G. Wodehouse, a few auspicious words, Suspicious words would work as well. G.K. Chesterton, Speechlessness. Sir Pelham Warner, Just Not Cricket. Charles Dickens, a couple. P.S. America, Dingley Dell versus all Muggletonians. And Richard Ingram, Ballads and Bedchamber. Stanley Baldwin on England, Advice on Speechmaking. So it's a real mix of stuff. Dorothy Parker in brief. Groucho Marx. How to be a Spy. Osbert Sitwell. Sir Herbert and Lady Tree. John Gordon, Lord Beaverbrook's Last Speech. Matthew Parrish, Giles Brandreth even, coming right up to modern times. John Mortimer. Joanna Trollope. And Her Majesty the Queen as well. Golden Wedding. Helen Fielding, Bridget Jones at a Wedding. Peter Ustinov, a run-in with Dame Edith Evans. Oh, that could be interesting. I haven't read that one. But yeah, so that's a nice little one. And again, you can find them cheap. Here's one that's one. I forget what they call these, but they're without the dust jacket, and they're actually quite cheap. This is quite nice. It's two different cloth, and it's embossed. That's interesting. The printing is embossed on the spine, and most of them are printed on. And these are the cheaper ones. That's quite interesting. I don't think there's any other change in the... this is 1948 Folio Society. It says illustrations by Mervyn Peake, introduction by John Hampton, and second printing 2015. They're not bad illustrations, but they're pretty sparse. So yeah, that's interesting that it's actually printed in. They're embossed on this. I wonder if the other ones are. I only have one of them, I think. This is... Sorry, it's a bit faded there. Commando, a Boer Journal of the Boer War by Dennis Reitz. Introduction by Leo Cooper. Preface by General the Right Honorable J.C. Smuts. This is 1982 for the Folio Society. Originally published in 1929 by Faber and Faber. And the text of this edition taken for the revised edition of 1932 by Faber and Faber. And here's the Boer Commando under attack from an armored train. The frontispiece. And there are photographs as well. Excuse me, I believe, yes. The Boer family of sharpshooters. So yeah, that was quite nice to get, and that was, I think, that was a couple pounds. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. It's just a plain black one, except that on the cover, which is quite nice. It has not been read either. It's still very stiff. I do like the illustrations in here. The introduction is by Simon Cowell, and illustrations by Emma Chichester Clark, 2009, and it was first published in Lippicott's monthly magazine, 1890. Revised, extended, and prefaced by the author. It was first published in book form by Ward and Locke Company in 91. Text of this edition follows that of the first book edition, with minor emendations. So I wonder if they've got an introduction to say what the emendations are. But there's some frontispiece. Let's see if we can find another one. I actually do kind of like these. And I'm going to have to look, because I wonder if there is an edition. I know there was one out a few years ago that was sort of the unexpurgated edition, but I wonder if anybody's reprinted the original edition as it appeared in Lippicott's magazine. I don't know. And here's another one. This is an older one. It's a little rough, the case. It's got some staining and chipping. This is Washington Square by Henry James. Lithographs by Linton Lamb. The Folio Society, 1963. This edition is used kind permission of John Farquharson Limited. I have not read Washington Square. The illustrations in here are interesting. They're sort of a olive green and black, which is a bit different and interesting. But I do like the pictorial covers. It's printed on the spine as well, even then. Here's another older one. The case is just plain, and it's seen better days. It's a bit rough. This is Robert Bagg, Hermsprong, or Man as He Is Not. Drawings by Cecil Keeley, 1960. And it is a 18th century novel. The author was born in 1728. I have not read this, so that is definitely the reason why I picked it up, because I am partial to 18th century writing. I better speed up here a little bit. Here's another old one, or oldish one. It's printed on. Yeah, that was £2. It's The Witches of Salem, a documentary narrative edited by Roger Thompson, lino cuts by Claire Malinsky, 1982, Folio Society. Nice woodcuts. Yep. Another older one, or oldish. It's that old, the other style, with cloth and marbled boards there. And this, interesting, that's printed in. That's embossed. It's pushed right in. This was £2. It's The Monk by Matthew Lewis, introduced by Devendra D. Varma, and wood engravings by George Toote, 1984. First published in 1796, The Monk. And this Folio Society edition is based on the first edition of 1796. And the wood engravings are quite nice as well. There's the frontispiece. I read this long time ago. It's quite a controversial, or was, book at the time. But yeah, so that's due for a reread at some point. There's a few of these, don't have them all. This is The Great Plague. It's a history. Walter George Bell, edited and introduced by Belinda Hollier in 2001. Originally 24 and 51 by Bell, as The Plague in London. who I think is the Great Plague of London. Yeah, the Great Plague in London. Gotta speed up here. This is a little one, older one. It's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes by Anita Luce. It's a little dirty on the spine. Introduction by Hugo Vickers. Drawings by Folks, FF, small f's. Kind of pretentious. Originally published in 1925. And this is 1985 version, Folio Society version. It was a huge seller at the time, and silent film was made, and other films made. Now, 2 box sets of Anthony Trollope. This is the Barchester Chronicles, and this has the cloth, and there's some dust there that's getting to me. Printed end papers with a map on them of Barsetshire, and this is the Warden. Owen Chadwick is the introduction, illustrated by Alexei Pendrell. This is 1995. Thoroughly enjoyable, and I do want to read through the rest of the series. The boxes are a bit dirty, but this is Barchester Towers, then Dr. Thorne. As you can probably see, the boxes are a little rough for wear, but I bought them at an Oxfam shop. I think they had them for quite a while. Nobody was buying them. And then I walked in one day, and they were there for £8 for both box sets. This is Family Parsonage, Last Chronicle of Parches, a Barset in a Small House at Allington. It's not probably the right order of them, but yeah, there you go. That's all I have of the Folio Society of Trollope, and I probably will pick up more as time goes on, because I do like the editions of those. But anyway, that's shelf 2, everyone, for the Folio Society books. There's another shelf in a little bit, but I should be able to get those done in a in one last video for the Folio Society. And I'll be back later today with an essay for sure, and possibly something else. There will be no mail today. Anyway, take care, BookTube. I hope everybody's having a good weekend and enjoying reading. Bye.